First story. I gave away my son's toys to his cousin to teach my son about growing up and the meaning of happiness and sacrifice. But my son had a breakdown demanding his toys back. I refused because of my pride. Still, my delusional wife supports my son and demands to get those damn toys back. My son is 5, almost 6, a December baby. He's a great kid overall, but pretty sensitive and, to be honest, kind of stuck in some of his younger routines. He still plays with a few toys he's had since he was 3. The biggest ones being this old plastic toy lawnmower and a little shopping cart. They're both battered but still functional. He pushes the mower around the backyard like he's cutting grass, and he packs the shopping cart with fake plastic food and dishes, then sets up little dinner parties for his stuffed animals. It was adorable when he was 3 or even 4. Now that he's almost 6 and in kindergarten, it's starting to feel a bit off. Not something I'm openly judging, just quietly noting, like, maybe it's time to gently nudge him towards more age-appropriate play. I'm not saying he has to jump straight to video games and sports, but come on, the stuffed animal dinner thing is getting a little weird. Anyway, the situation blew up over the weekend. My sister came over with her kids. She has a 2-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old boy. They were staying for a few hours, just a casual family visit. My son was excited to see his older cousin and pretty much ran off with him to play with Legos and the Switch, leaving his usual go-to toys behind. At one point, my niece, the 2-year-old, wandered over to the mower and shopping cart and started pushing them around. She was clearly obsessed with them, and I thought, yeah, this makes more sense. These toys are more her age range. So I asked my son, "Hey bud, can your cousin play with the mower and cart?" He barely looked up and went, "Yeah," before running off again. I took that as a pretty clear sign he was past them. He wasn't possessive, didn't hesitate, and didn't even seem to care. Now here's the thing, and maybe this is where I'm already the odd depending on who you ask, but I made a call right then. As they were packing up to leave, I told my sister she could take the toys for her daughter. She asked me twice if I was sure, and I said yes. I genuinely thought my son had outgrown them and wouldn't miss them. My sister was happy, and her daughter was over the moon. It felt like a win-win. Less clutter for us, free toys for them, and maybe a step forward in my son's development, or at least what I saw as a step. But I probably should mention that this wasn't my first time clashing with my wife on stuff like this. She's a bit more sentimental and cautious than I am. I'm not cold-hearted, but I do believe in making decisions and sticking to them, especially when it comes to not spoiling our kid or letting him stagnate. We've butted heads before about what's too soon or too harsh for him. When he cried after I told him I was tossing out the remains of a giant cardboard box fort he'd made, it had been sitting in the living room for 2 weeks, falling apart. She said I should have waited until he wasn't around. Another time, he broke a toy, and I told him right then we wouldn't be replacing it. She thought I should have handled it with more compassion. So yeah, our parenting styles don't always align, and this whole toy situation turned into round 3 in that ongoing battle. After they left, my son went looking for his mower and cart. He asked if we moved them. I said, "Hey buddy, remember how you let your cousin play with them? She really loved them, so I let her take them home." I kept my tone light, expecting a shrug. But no. He froze, looked at me like I'd told him his dog died, and immediately started crying. Real, chest-heaving, snotty sobs. He kept asking, "Why would you do that?" over and over. I didn't know what to say. I tried telling him I thought he didn't want them anymore, that he seemed like he was done, that he didn't even touch them that day. But none of that mattered. The damage was done. And here's the kicker, he hasn't stopped bringing it up since. That was 4 days ago. He keeps asking where the toys are, if we can get them back, and if we can go to his cousin's house and trade for them. He's been cold to me, barely talking, unless it's to ask about the toys. The other night, I heard him telling my wife, "I hate Daddy." She didn't correct him. In fact, she looked at me like she agreed. She hasn't yelled, but she's livid. She's been giving me the cold shoulder since it happened. Says I completely overstepped and had no right to give away his toys without checking with him directly and, more importantly, without talking to her. She thinks it was emotionally damaging and that I'm completely out of touch with how attached kids can be to things. She's made me sleep on the couch every night since then. That hasn't happened since we had a blow-up over finances last year, when I moved some savings into a home repair without looping her in. That's another story, but let's just say there's a bit of a pattern forming here. Anyway, I texted my sister to explain the situation, mostly to give her a heads up. She felt bad and offered to bring the toys back, but I told her not to. My son had already seen her daughter playing with them via FaceTime, and he was happy about that part in theory. Plus, I didn't want to make things awkward. She offered a compromise. She said she'd buy him something nice for his birthday coming up, like a big outdoor playhouse. Honestly, I thought that was more than generous. It's a major upgrade. I told my wife, thinking she'd appreciate the gesture. Nope. She looked at me like I was completely missing the point. She said it's not about replacing things, it's about how I treated our son and acted like his feelings didn't matter. She said I broke his trust, and that a shiny plastic house won't fix it. At this point, I'm sleeping on the couch. My son won't speak to me. And I've got a wife who thinks I'm some emotionally tone-deaf robot who doesn't get basic parenting. But here's the thing. I still don't think I did anything wrong. I didn't toss his stuff in the trash or donate it without a second thought. I didn't do it out of malice. I saw him ignore the toys and figured he was done. I made a practical call. I get that maybe I misread the moment. But now everyone's acting like I burned his baby blanket in front of him. And the fallout is getting ridiculous. My wife's still not speaking to me normally. She talks through gritted teeth when she has to, and the rest of the time it's silent treatment or passive-aggressive sighs. She told me flat out that she's embarrassed by how I handled it and said she would have never made a decision like that behind his back. She's not budging either. She's moved into our son's room temporarily and said I can stay on the couch until further notice. My son's been emotionally checked out. He's quiet, avoids me, and still brings it up randomly. Like last night at dinner, we were eating in silence, and out of nowhere he said, "I miss my shopping cart." Just drops that like a brick and keeps eating. My wife didn't say anything. She just gave me this look like, "See what you did? I'm not some heartless idiot." I know he's hurt. But I also know kids get attached to random stuff. And that doesn't mean you let it run your house. I've watched some of my friends let their kids hoard broken Happy Meal toys and outgrown baby crap because they're too scared of a meltdown. I'm not doing that. I want to raise a kid who can handle disappointment, who understands that stuff doesn't last forever. But apparently, I'm the only one in this house who thinks like that. A part of me wonders if this isn't just about the toys. My wife's been extra sensitive about parenting decisions lately. A couple of months ago, we had a long argument because I told our son he couldn't go to a classmate's birthday party after he had a meltdown in school. She thought taking away a social event was too harsh. I thought it was a logical consequence. We never fully resolved that one. I think she's still carrying it. This toy thing just added fuel to it. Now she's acting like I don't get what it means to be a parent. She's gone full defensive mode, watching over every interaction I have with our son like she doesn't trust me anymore. I offered to read to him at bedtime, and she told me he's not ready for that yet. Like I'm some danger to his emotional well-being because I gave away a cart and a lawnmower. And no, I'm not going to ask my sister to return the toys. That would be humiliating. Her daughter's already fully attached to them, and it would just make it more of a mess. We'd be punishing a 2-year-old to reverse a decision that honestly wasn't that catastrophic. My wife thinks it's the only way to start repairing the damage. I think that's giving plastic toys way too much power. My sister even offered again to send the toys back after hearing how upset my wife and son are. I told her no. She felt awkward about the whole thing and said maybe we should all just cool off before making more decisions. She's right. I'm still pushing for the playhouse idea. It's not a replacement, it's a step forward. My sister said she'd even let our son pick it out. It's not cheap, and honestly, it's nicer than anything we had growing up. But my wife rolled her eyes when I mentioned it and said I'm just throwing money at a problem I created. It's starting to feel like no solution is good enough unless it includes a full confession and public walk of shame. And I'm not doing that. I explained my reasoning. I wasn't reckless. I made a judgment call based on what I saw. And it's not like I'm some stone-faced disciplinarian. I take him to the park. I help him with puzzles. We build Legos. But the second I make a solo call that doesn't align with her feelings, suddenly I'm the villain. I feel like I'm constantly being evaluated, like I need parenting clearance for every damn decision. So here I am 4 days in the doghouse over 2 old toys, with a kid who won't look at me, and a wife who acts like I should write an apology letter to a plastic lawnmower. I'm not backing down. I'm not getting those toys back. I don't believe I did anything cruel or outrageous. I saw my son not engaging with the toys and made a reasonable decision. And I still think the outrage is blown out of proportion. But clearly, I'm the minority in my own house. So let me ask the court of Reddit. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. And I say this as a dad of two who also leans practical. You didn't just toss out broken junk. You gave away a functioning, loved toy without asking the kid who owned it. You made a decision about his emotions for him. That's not raising a resilient child. That's bulldozing his boundaries. The kicker is, the second he cried, you knew you messed up, but instead of doing anything to fix it, you doubled down. She'll buy him a playhouse is not a solution. That's you deciding what will make him feel better. Again, how about you ask your son what would help? And your wife. She's not pissed about the mower, dude. She's pissed that you keep making unilateral calls, then acting shocked when she's not cool with it. If my partner made multiple parenting decisions without me, I'd also stop trusting them. You're not a monster. But yeah, you need to grow the hell up. Comment 2. YTA. You made two huge mistakes here. First, you assumed what your son felt instead of asking. And second, you treated emotional attachment like clutter. Kids don't play with every toy every day. That doesn't mean they've outgrown it. My daughter has a stuffed seal she ignores for months. But God help me if I move it. It's for comfort, not a plaything. The part that bugs me most, though, is how proud you seem about not backing down. You framed this whole post like a logic puzzle you're trying to win. Parenting isn't a logic contest, man. It's empathy in motion. You saw tears and thought, well, lesson learned. What lesson? That his feelings don't matter if dad's got a point. You're not preparing him for the real world. You're teaching him that the people who are supposed to protect him might just decide his emotions are inconvenient. That's not resilience. That's mistrust. Comment 3. YTA. You didn't just give away his toys. You made a choice for him about what he was allowed to love. You watched your son share something he cherished, and instead of praising his generosity, you rewarded it by taking those toys out of his life. You basically punished kindness. That's going to stick in his head a lot longer than the toys will. Also, that whole, it's not normal for a 6-year-old to play pretend dinners line. Dude, that's exactly what's normal. It's developmentally spot on. Pretend play doesn't have an expiration date. You wanted to push him into being older. But what you really did was show him it's not safe to be sentimental around you. Your wife's reaction might feel over the top, but she's reacting to the pattern. You made a decision alone, and now you're acting like standing firm makes you strong. It doesn't. It just makes you wrong and stubborn. Update. So I've read the replies. Most of them, anyway. Not going to lie, some of you made fair points. Others, especially the ones acting like I traumatized my son or emotionally abandoned him, need to seriously calm the hell down. He's 5, not recovering from war. Some of you are projecting harder than an MX. That said, yeah, things have spiraled since my original post. Let me give a rundown. After a week of cold shoulders, silent dinners, and my son walking around like a grief-stricken widower over a plastic cart and toy mower, I tried to smooth things over. Not because I suddenly saw the light, but because the tension in the house was unbearable. My wife wasn't speaking to me unless it was about bills or groceries, and I'd reached my breaking point sleeping on the damn couch. I tried to explain again calmly that I didn't do this out of cruelty. I told her what a lot of you here also missed. This wasn't about power, control, or trying to erase my son's emotions. It was a judgment call. And yes, maybe a miscalculation, but not malicious. That didn't go over well. She said, I don't own the right to make emotional decisions for other people, and that our son's response should have been enough to tell me I was wrong. I asked her how long she planned to keep playing jail warden over a toy mistake. That was probably the wrong line. 2 nights ago, I told my son we could try to get the toys back, if that's really what he wanted. He lit up. Look, it hurt my pride, and it felt like breaking my word to my sister, but I was out of options. So I called my sister and asked if we could swap the toys back. But now she flipped her script. She said, honestly, I don't think we should. My daughter's attached now. She sleeps with the cart next to her crib. I get it. I saw how happy she was pushing that thing around. It felt like taking candy from a baby. My sister said, you're the one who made the call. You said it was final. She wasn't rude, just direct. She's not trying to be the villain here. She actually offered again to buy my son a playhouse or new toys to help, said it wasn't about the money. I told her thanks, but no. That night, I sat my son down. I explained that I asked for the toys back, but his cousin really loved them now. I told him sometimes when we give something away, it makes someone else very happy. That's part of growing up. Letting go isn't always easy, but it's important. He cried. Not a meltdown, but tears. I sat there with him. I didn't scold him. I didn't say, be a man, or any of that crap some of you accused me of. I just told him I understood that it was okay to be sad, but that we had to move forward. Since then, he started hoarding things. At first, it was subtle, hiding small toys under his bed, insisting certain things can't be touched, even when no one was near them. Yesterday, I found his shoes stuffed with Legos. Today, he told my wife not to wash his stuffed animals because Daddy might give them away. So yeah, message received loud and clear. The kid now thinks I'm some toy-snatching thief who might raid his room at any time. My wife used that to prove her point. This is why trust matters. I didn't argue. She's now pushing for us to go to parenting counseling. She found a co-parenting class through a local community center. Says we need to get aligned, or this kid's going to end up with a closet full of emotional protection items. I told her I'd go not because I feel like some failure, but because this is turning into a long-term resentment issue, and I'm not about to let that rot our house from the inside out. I've also started spending more focused time with my son, letting him lead play, even when it's not what I think is age appropriate. We've had a couple of stuffed animal tea parties. Do I feel ridiculous? Absolutely. But he smiled. Let me address some of the comments head on. He's traumatized. No, he's not. He's upset. Disappointed. Maybe hurt. That's not trauma. Let's not throw clinical labels on everything. Kids cry when their sandwich is cut the wrong way. Doesn't mean they need therapy over it. You're emotionally unavailable. That's bullshit. I've bathed this kid, stayed up with him sick, taught him to ride a bike, built forts, fixed broken toys. I'm not some detached ghost floating through his childhood. I made one bad call. That doesn't define me as a father. Your wife should leave you over a toy. You need to touch grass. We've had tougher fights and worked through them. This isn't divorce material, it's a parenting disagreement with ripple effects. You should have just shown her the post. I considered it. But the last thing I need is to weaponize Reddit comments against my wife in a real argument. She doesn't need a gotcha moment. She needs to feel like I'm listening, not recruiting strangers to pick sides. I get why people were upset. I get why my son is sad. I even get why my wife feels undermined. What I don't accept is the idea that this one screw-up makes me unfit to parent, or that I need to be publicly shamed into repentance. Yes, I handled it poorly. Yes, I'm fixing it. But I'm not getting the damn toys back. My niece has them now. A new kid got joy from them. And my son, slowly, will learn to live without them because that's life. He's not a baby anymore. We all grow up. Some of us just take a little longer to understand that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. I've made my peace with it. Even if the rest of the house still hasn't. Comments. Comment 1. Man, you're still not getting it. You say your kid's not traumatized, but he's now hoarding socks and Legos like you're the boogeyman. That is trauma, just not the movie type. It's the I no longer trust my home environment kind. You're not evil, but you do this thing where you treat your son's emotions like a logic puzzle to solve. He didn't need a speech about letting go. He needed his dad to say, I F-ed up. I'll do better next time. Instead, you're still justifying it with, he's not a baby anymore, like that excuses your blind spot. And for the record, your wife's not mad about the toys. She's mad that she's married to someone who makes parenting decisions like he's signing off on a project budget. If you're serious about that parenting class, good. Maybe finally she'll stop sleeping in the damn kid's room. Comment 2. I'm actually surprised how much you're still framing this like a control battle. I'm not backing down. I'm fixing it my way. He'll learn to live without them. Dude, it's not about whether he lives without them. He already is. But at what cost? I'm a mom. I've made judgment calls too. I've taken stuff to Goodwill only to have my kid ask about it later. And I felt like SHT. You didn't just make a mistake, you then forced your kid to face the emotional consequences alone, and only tried to backpedal after it wrecked the energy in your house. Also, your sister suck. You could have handled this whole thing better if you saw people as people instead of roles in your story. The kid's not the boy who needs to grow up. He's your son, and he just wanted his stuff back. Comment 3. Dude, you're so deep in your own stubborn pride that you can't even see what this is about. YTA 100 times over. You're lecturing the internet about, he's 5, not traumatized, like that's the mic drop moment. No one said he's going to therapy for life. They're saying you broke trust. He asked you if his cousin could play with his toys, not have them. You turned a kind gesture into a loss. Then, when you saw it crushed him, you still refused to fix it because your word mattered more than his happiness. That's not integrity. That's vanity. And the way you talk about your wife, she's livid. Sleeping in the kids' room. I'm not backing down. You sound like a guy in a standoff, not a marriage. You made a SHTTY call, and instead of humility, you're writing essays about how misunderstood you are. You're not raising a boy to grow up. You're raising a kid who's learning that dad's word is law, and feelings don't count. Congrats, that's how you end up with a teenager who lies to avoid your reactions. You don't need a parenting class. You need to learn what empathy actually means. Second story. I want my son's girlfriend to join us on the Disney trip, but she wants me to get her parents' permission. But I mistakenly called the cops on them, and they think I'm racist. Hi, parenting community. I have a touchy situation that needs a perfect response. First, some background. Our family. 4 kids, 16, 14, 14, and 13. We are financially comfortable and are planning a week-long family trip to Disney in June. Girlfriend's family. From a different culture. They live in a very small house with immediate and extended family members in a bad part of town. Not my words. A police officer's words. Read on. We think she's wonderful. A smart girl, a good influence on our son, a kind and fun person, and very at ease with herself and with others. Our 16-year-old is unlikely to want to come on this trip on his own. He feels too old. Disney is for little kids. That's lots of time without friends, etc. My husband and I have invited his girlfriend to go with us. All expenses paid. If she goes, we will stay in 2 hotel rooms, a boy room and a girl room. We would love to have her along, and our son would too. She knows about this and is very excited, as she's never been to Disney before, but she is apprehensive to ask her parents. We have never met her parents, mostly because of logistical reasons. We don't live nearby, her parents work a ton, and the occasion just hasn't come up. The 2 teens have been talking for a year and hanging out for about 8 months. He spends tons of time over at her house and with her family. They know him well and apparently like him. She has spent lots of time with us as well. We have taken her to out-of-town games to watch the son play, even out of state before, but never overnight. As he is our oldest, we are just starting to navigate curfews and how that works. He is not a fully licensed driver yet, so he has to get rides with parents or friends. About a month ago, he was at GF's house, and he and I were texting around 10:15 p.m. We had previously agreed that the curfew was 11, and he assured me that he would be home. I offered a ride, but he told me he had one. He did not come home on time and was not responding to phone or text at 11:20, and neither was his girlfriend. After several attempts to call and text them both, I decided to drive over to retrieve my son. On the way over, it's now 12:30 am. I realized that the chances of them opening their door at 12:45 am would be slim. On 2 other occasions, when I have gone over there to pick him up during the afternoons, he has not come out when I arrived, even though he knew I was waiting, and upon knocking on the door, no one would answer. I enlisted the help of the local police to get him. It was a big decision, but I honestly was not sure that I could get him on my own. The officer suggested that I try to knock first. I did. He saw movement in the house through a window, but no one answered. The policeman banged on the door and very loudly and authoritatively got my son out of their house. My son and his GF had apparently fallen asleep watching a movie, and I had no other way to get in touch with anyone there. The next day, my son and GF were both upset. He was mad at me, and her parents thought I was racist, which was why I got the police involved. I got Mom's email and tried to explain my actions, but apparently they are still not big fans, especially her dad, which I do understand, but our family is definitely not racist. So now, we need to somehow meet the parents, which GF thinks will be part of the key to having them allow her to go. We obviously want it to be the least awkward possible. We don't want to host a dinner, for fear of them thinking we are showing off our house wealth. We thought inviting them to one of our son's games would be good, but the schedule doesn't work before we need to make the vacation reservations. We aren't especially interested in meeting for dinner out. That's a long time for small talk and seems overly formal. Do we include or not include GF and son? Other kids too? What do we do now? Comments. Commenter 1. Fast food, a coffee shop or park is probably your best bet for a low-key thing. I wouldn't bring your other kids, but your son and his GF should maybe be there, and have it somewhere where they can also go off and do something for a bit if needed. I'll be honest, I really don't think you're going to get a not awkward meeting. I would have been incredibly insulted if someone showed up with a police escort without even having tried to knock on my door. OP, that's just it. Though I had experienced them not opening the door before, and even before they knew the policeman was there. They were not opening the door that night. Commenter 1. I do understand that really. I just think from the other side, since you talk about the type of neighborhood and such, it probably seemed to them that you wanted a police escort because of the neighborhood, etc. So I would expect it to be somewhat awkward until you get the chance to explain it face to face. Yep. I knew it was not an affluent area. But I honestly didn't realize that it was a bad area either until the cop said it. He said he hoped he would never catch his own kids in that area, etc. I was kind of surprised. I'm sure the people who live there know what's up. But I really didn't do it for safety. Commenter 1. They might also be reacting with embarrassment as well. I think once you get to sit and talk about it, they will realize you definitely aren't racist. I mean, you are allowing your son to date their daughter and want to include her on a family vacation. It will probably start off a bit awkward, though. Commenter 2. If he can't be trusted to come home for curfew and come outside of a house you know he's in when you're waiting outside, how can he be trusted to meet up with you at the appointed times with his girlfriend at Disneyland? How do you know he would even stay in the resort area? I don't think having the girlfriend there would help. Commenter 3. It seems like they have a fair amount of trust and alone time in everyday life. If GF has never been to Disney, I bet she'll want to actually just stay in the park. The property is huge, and it'd be a huge hassle to go off property outside of something innocuous like downtown Disney. Parents should just hang on to the hotel keys, and they'll be good. Commenter 2. The OP had to call in the police to get her son to come out of his girlfriend's house, because it's a repeated problem for him to not come home when he says he will, or even answer the door. When you take teens to Disneyland, you need to be able to trust them to stay within the 2 parks or the downtown Disney area, answer phones or texts, and meet up on occasion. It doesn't sound like he has enough empathy for his parents' concern about his well-being or respect for them to do that. He won't even answer a door that his mom is knocking on. Why should the girl's parents trust them to keep their girl safe if they have to involve the police just to get their own kid to come home at night? Are they going to call the police when they're at Disney and the kids don't answer their phones? Commenter 4. I don't know when your trip is, but I would try to get to know the parents more than just a coffee chat before you go. Think about it. They know your son, but they don't know you or your family except for one unhappy experience. Maybe have your son and girlfriend hang out at your house more often so they know she is comfortable with you all. They need to be assured that she will be taken care of, because it's scary letting your child, even a teenage one, go far away without you for a long period of time. To be honest, if you called a police escort just to retrieve your son from my house, I don't know if I'd be comfortable letting my daughter spend a week with you all. It seems like you think you can use her to coax your son into coming, TBH. OP, my husband and I are confident that he will go, with or without her. We felt that one. It would be fun to have her along and share the trip with her, and that too. It would also be a fun memory for son and GF to share. It was not extended only as a way to make him go, but more to make the trip more fun for all. They don't hang out here as often because we have rules about keeping bedroom doors open. And I'm around lots more than the adults at their house, who seem to work a lot. They have more fun at her house. We often have our kids' friends here, and our house is always open to them. Heck, we served the only birthday cake one of his friends got when he came over for his birthday yesterday. But I get what you're saying about letting kids travel. We've talked about whether we would let one of ours go with another family. And we would also be careful and make sure that we knew the other parents. We're not trying to make anyone uncomfortable by extending the invitation. Commenter 5. Realistically, I can't imagine a lot of circumstances in which parents of a 16-year-old girl would allow a week-long overnight vacation with her boyfriend's family. Given the whole police thing, which sounds like a major overreaction on your part, I can't imagine they would say yes. No one wants the cops at their house, and calling the cops over an hour missed curfew or so is kind of ridiculous, seeing as you knew where he was. Good luck with this. But I would be shocked if they agreed. OP, okay, so what would you have done? Can't get in touch with anyone there over the course of 1.5 hours. Have knocked before when you knew people were there, during normal waking hours with no response at the door. It's 12:30 am. Would you have let your kid just spend the night there? That is not okay with us. Note, I did knock twice loudly at 12:30 am before the police officer got involved, and no one answered either knock. I literally could not get my son. What would you have done? I agree that they probably won't allow her to go. Commenter 5. There seems to be a disconnect in your thinking. So he can't stay the night there. But you would expect her parents to allow her to stay the night. Wait. A week's worth of nights with your son. And teenagers being teenagers, separate rooms only mean so much. I would have knocked. I would have blown up their phone, his phone and her phone, if I was really keen to get him out. Unless I thought they were participating in some nefarious behavior, I would probably just ground him the next day until he can handle the responsibility of meeting a curfew. I'm not sure why you called the police before even knocking on the door. OP, here are some important differences. When we got into the house, they were asleep in her room, with her door closed. Like I've said in another place in this post, in our house, bedroom doors stay open and behavior is monitored. As I mentioned in the original post, we would have completely separate hotel rooms, one for males and one for females. So not exactly apples to apples. I called the police because I had a history of experience with them not opening doors, because it was the middle of the night, and I was a sleep-deprived mom who wanted her son. I did blow up their phones, both calling and texting each of them many times, and nothing came of it. I did knock, and nothing came of it. Edit. By male's room and female's room. That means that my husband stays with the boys and I stay with the girls. So it is as well monitored as it could possibly be. Update. Hug your kids, even if you have to chase them. I am missing my 17-year-old today. He has been living in substance abuse programs since September. We started with a stint of wilderness therapy for 3 months last fall. Then he tried life back at home and failed within 6 weeks, ultimately on Xanax. He's currently at a therapeutic boarding school, and we have only seen him for a few hours over one parent weekend since January when he went back to wilderness to detox for a few weeks, and then transferred to the school to start there. Although I am aware that many kids around this age fly the coop, those kids can also call, text, and come back home. I'm missing my son a lot today, so I just wanted to remind you all to coax your kids out of their rooms. Food usually works, and let them know that you love them and simply just like having them around. Thankfully, we have 3 other teens living at home, 15, and 13. But there's still a hole where 17 should be. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Do you feel like the therapeutic boarding school was a good choice? Is your son being helped? We are thinking about this option for our 15-year-old, though it will probably bankrupt us. OP, I do. Although we were resistant at first, hence why he came home from Wilderness V1 instead of going straight to school. Because of that, he can't claim that he could have made it on his own back at home if his parents would have given him the chance, which is what lots of new kids at TBS say while resisting the experience. We are also more sure that it's the best option for him, which we would have wondered if he never came home between wilderness and school. The school he's attending is very small, 13 students, all teen males with substance abuse issues, with about 45 staff people. We are extremely impressed with the program. And yes, we will be broke after it's over. It's designed to be a 10-12-month program. Commenter 2. What was your first reaction when you found out he was smoking weed? OP. We tried many things. Reminding him that he would be pulled off his varsity HS team if caught. Showing him that his athletic performance was declining. Reminding him that it's illegal. Taking his driving privileges, etc. We began drug testing about 3 months after we knew that he started smoking and tied his brand new driving privileges to a clean test. And that didn't even deter him. Ultimately, the things he valued the most, senior year soccer, driving, graduating with his friends, still fell away when substances were available. Addiction, to whatever it may be, is a beast that knows no rationale. Update. So, ours is a pretty long story. But to make it much shorter, our now 18-year-old son left our house 1 year and 8 months ago, right after turning 17, just 2 weeks into his senior year of high school, due to drug and alcohol abuse issues, behavior issues, truancy from school, etc. To literally save his life, his dad and I sent him to a series of rehab placements, including a therapeutic boarding school where he eventually finished high school and graduated. He has only been home once since September of 2017, between placements, with the agreement of his primary therapist at the first placement, Dec 17 Jan 18, which was not a success. He OD'd in his room and abused drugs in our backyard. He was not allowed to leave our property with friends, based on our mutually agreed upon family agreement document. So the friends brought the SHT here. Most recently, he was kicked out of his college transitional program a couple of months ago due to sobriety issues and non-compliance with the program. At that time, we gave him 2 options. Go to one last rehab program that had been recommended to us, or he could make a life for himself with no support from us except for medical/pharmacy coverage, his phone so we could be in contact with him, and a plane ticket to the landing spot of his choice. Once his legal debts to his current state were completed, because the state he's living in now is 2,000 plus miles from home, and he didn't make the choice to live there. He chose the make a life option and has been truly homeless and hungry for 2 months. He's currently paying his debt 3 days in jail for petty larceny, and on Tuesday, he will be free to leave that particular state. He wants to come right back here, to our town. We have previously made it clear to him that he can't live here. We have 3 other kids, all in high school. He has stolen from us in the past, and his sobriety challenges and general disrespect for rules, etc., have historically made us firm in this decision. We haven't seen him since Christmas, but I believe that he has matured quite a bit since living here last, with quite a bit of maturity still to go. As we are now anticipating him being back in our medium-sized town, we are wondering how to proceed. He is still a very young adult. He will be 19 this summer. Is there any chance that he could live here again? What would the rules be? How would we enforce them? We have done the urine testing route before to determine sobriety, and it's not fun at all. We are concerned about his effect on his siblings, and on us honestly. This is a concern whether he lives with us or not. We also love him, and would want to support him if he's sober and actively seeking success for himself. We just don't know where to start. This is uncharted territory for us. He's excited about seeing the family dog again when he comes back and wonders if she will remember him. He misses us, as we have missed him. It's just sad. We would love to have the healthy version of him living with us, but can't imagine having the addicted version of him tearing apart all of our lives. What would you do? P.S. Please don't berate our previous decisions unless you've walked a mile in our shoes. We have done everything we could to ensure that he has remained alive and healthy, finished high school, had the opportunity to start college, had more therapy than he ever asked for, etc., etc. We have literally spent more than $250,000 on his care. I'm sure if you thought there was a real possibility that you might outlive your child, you'd do all you could as well. Comments. Commenter 1. I was this kid. Drugs, alcohol, behavior issues, etc. When I turned 18, my parents kicked me out, and I thank them for it. I left with 2 bags of my belongings and a wallet full of $30. I slept on a couch, a mattress on a floor with no electricity, and I did some things I wish I hadn't done to get through. But I survived. I made it. If your child will ever make something of himself, he must try. He must fall flat and get back up. He must be able to handle consequences. I'm now almost 21 and moved back in with my parents due to my little sister being unalive in a car accident. But being with my parents now and realizing the SHT I put them through and what I did was enough to put me on the right path for life. I wish you the best of luck in this situation, though, and hope you and your son will have a chance to grow. OP. I'm glad to know that you pulled yourself out of your situation. That's part of the reason we were actually okay with him being homeless for the last 2 months. He slept under bridges and hid out in sheds. His backpack and sleeping bag were stolen, and we didn't help. He was hungry, and we did not help. He finally decided yesterday that jail with a bed and 3 meals and people to talk with would be a better option than his current days and chose to check in for his 3-day sentence. I hope that his time there will be an eye-opener and a catalyst for change. I'm very sorry about your sister. Life is not fair. Comment by OP in the thread. I'm happy to share our experiences. Our oldest bio kid was diagnosed with high-functioning autism when he was 18. So many things have made sense in his life since then, and in retrospect. That diagnosis has absolutely changed our perspective on everything he does, says, and doesn't do. It explains a lot of his motivations. He's not an arse or being difficult. He's just being all he knows to be. When he was 12, and he ate the candy bar that his younger brother bought me for my birthday, he wasn't trying to hurt me or his brother. There was a candy bar in the fridge because I received it as a gift at 7 A candy bar just sitting there. Awesome. I would suggest that you read and learn as much about autism as you can as you prepare to embark on this journey. You will probably need to be his voice when he can't speak and his advocate, particularly with the high school football coach who also happens to teach chemistry and thinks he's an arsehole from day one. Ask me, and you'll need to know how to encourage the best from him. And OP, it's possible to be diagnosed at any age, which may be enlightening and illuminating for you too. You're awesome people for taking this on. People with autism have a really cool way of looking at the world. Comment by OP in the thread. I second the notion of keeping him away from kids in other versions of crisis. We sent our oldest son to a therapeutic boarding school. While there, the other boys made a homemade tattoo gun out of an electric razor, guitar wire, and pen ink. Almost all of the boys got tattoos in one night, some on hands. Being around other troubled kids is really not an optimal situation. They are forced to attend therapy, at least where my son was. Forced therapy obviously doesn't work. They took the kids on field trips. My son found a first aid kit on a field trip and overdosed on the drug contents while being egged on by the other boys. We spent 3 days in ICU. I would look into alternative options that don't put him around other troubled kids. These were just 2 examples of what happened at our son's school. It was $17K a month. Comment by OP in the thread: my teen is an e-girl, and it's horrible. My oldest son missed his whole senior year of high school and more due to living against his wishes in residential drug rehab programs. He is now back home with us and is thankfully healthy. One arm is covered in tattoos, some homemade, some bought for cheap and badly done. Guess what? I treasure every day that I get to tell him good morning. And those tats don't bother me a single bit, because they are here in my house and they are alive. And they're on an arm that sometimes hugs me. Back up and gain some perspective to appreciate what you have. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.